everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Nearly got my own intro wrong there. Today is episode 62 of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest this week is someone who is probably more familiar with the mortal realms than they are with the Dark Imperium and whatnot. This is a channel that I was introduced to about a year ago, and yeah, they do my job but better for Age of Sigmar. So, ladies, gentlemen, Xenos of all ages, and everything in between, I give you 2+Tough.
Hey, hi everybody.
So yeah, I think if you just want to introduce yourself, just because I know there's a lot of people here who are probably mainly 40k viewers and don't probably follow you, so you have a minute, take the floor.
Yeah. So my name is Doug, and I play a lot of Games Workshop games. I dabble in 40k. I played Orcs, but I recently donated those to the fires in California that were rampaging that GW just did the big paint marathon for. Mm-hmm. So I'm just starting back into 40k with Space Wolves with the Primaris side of Dark Imperium, but most of what I do is Age of Sigmar. I do play Beasts of Chaos, which are the old Beastmen, and I absolutely love it. Do lots of lore videos on my channel. If there's any questions or anything like that, you can ask them in the comments, and I take viewer comments and turn them into episodes, and got a good community there, really cool people.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. Brief introductions out of the way. In the news this week, sorry, I don't know if I talked over you there. Okay, in the news, let's start old and work forward. So, a couple of weeks ago, and they're now starting to get their proper releases, the Gloomspite Gitz came along for Age of Sigmar with some of the most gorgeous models I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about these very briefly on the last episode, but oh my goodness, the models are gorgeous across the board.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with how dynamic they are. They captured motion, I think, better in this range than any other.
Yeah, I think you compare, say, the Fanatics and the Squig Hoppers to, let's go back a bit, like the old Witch Elves or whatever. There is a lot of, particularly in the Fanatics, a lot of movement in them, and they're really good sculpts. And I've got the book because I know what I'm like. I know I'm going to play them. So I'm having a read of their background and their rules, and there's a big pile of fun stuff in there. I think the one good thing, I think it's the same thing as 40k with Orcs, is Destruction and Grots, that sort of a faction, allow you to play with humor in a way that no other faction allows you to do. Because
absolutely,
on the AOS side, Order, Death are deadly serious. Death. And then in 40k, Imperium, everything is super serious unless, well, there are exceptions. I'm sure Rem will give me about a half a dozen in a second. But generally, the Imperium plays it quite serious. The Eldari, the Necrons, even the Tau play it very, very serious. So it's good to have a little bit of comic relief that can also kick your ass.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, it's welcome.
And I will say, I really approve of, there's an example army in the book, and there's a pair of Mangler Squigs that are nicknamed Squigmar and Scragash, and I read that, and I just cracked up. It was brilliant. Yeah,
I was half expecting, one called Beauty and the other called Beast or something.
No, they're awesome. Yeah, I've been tearing through that book this week, putting together lore videos for the channel, and it's just... the overall impression of the Bad Moon, I was like, this is a little vague in some areas, but then when you got to the units, they're just so full of life. It blows my mind.
Yeah, everything together, you sort of understand why they were away for so long and why they're only sort of coming out now. They sort of they justify their own crappy release schedule. Yes, GW, you have a crappy release schedule, at least you did, for Age of Sigmar. They've justified it as the Soul Wars have sent the Bad Moon's orbit completely into overdrive, not that it really had an orbit to begin with, and that's why the Gloomspite are way more active now, and it's clever how they've used their own ineptitude of a release schedule that AOS used to have to justify some good piece of writing. I'm sure there are many more examples that people can come up with, but yeah, that's a clever piece of writing. And I don't know if they're any good. I'm sure we'll find out if they're any good, but they look heck fun to play.
Oh, yeah. And on the note of their GW coming out with a lore reason as to why this army hasn't been around. It's actually kind of funny because like they didn't just say like, oh, they were gone and now they're here, but they created this elaborate history. Like they have like an alternate timeline of all the crap they've been doing underground fighting fire slayers, but you don't see that on the surface. Yeah. It's kind of fun. I mean, this is like, again, it's like a divergent history, and now they're just kind of cranking into ours. I don't know. It's kind of fun like that. But I get your point.
Yeah, and they also gave us a small hint that, what was it? They mentioned about the Git mob and what happened to them, because I think they ran off into Heish, if I remember correctly. You'll probably remember this. The Git mob ran off into... Are you having connection issues, by the way, around?
Yeah, just a tad.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there. So you're asking about the Git mob, where they went?
Yeah, I think I saw it. It was when the Age of Chaos came, and the Moon Clan and Co. went underground, for want of a better word. I think I saw in here, it mentioned that the Git mob didn't, and they went and did something else, became like Plains Dwellers and that sort of thing. I'm just trying to find the page where they said it, and it's driving me nuts now. Come on, where is it?
Yeah, I actually left my book at work because I was reading it over lunch and then left it there. I did mention that the Git mob like followed the sun and the Moon Clan followed the night.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure what exactly happened to him.
Yeah, and I find it absolutely hilarious that one of the characters for the Moon Clan is that guy who roleplays the sun, just scare the grots to run forward.
Exactly, yeah.
And the reason he stood on a giant squig skeleton is because the squig god beast tried to eat the sun and basically got himself all Icarus and incinerated. Yeah, the story is here. Boingob, the god beast father of squigs, tries to chase after the light of Heish, leaps after it, and then his entire skull just comes crashing down. And yeah, it's just, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, what's fun about all of the ogre factions, if kind of going as a broader way, is like they can have these super fun mythologies that don't feel kind of phoned in. Like the first wave of AOS stuff, it all seemed so abstract that it was not easy to connect with. I think that's why people hated the lore in the beginning.
Yeah, there wasn't lore in the beginning.
There was a few books. I mean, the Realmgate Wars were pretty great. But going on now where we have things that are more concrete, now when you have factions that contrast that with like these crazy Gorka Morka tried to eat the moon and now the moon has his power kind of stuff, like it seems funny because they're a fun kind of dark humor faction.
And on the other side, the Firebellies, Gorka Morka got indigestion after eating the sun and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun hidden away in Destruction, and I'm glad that they've got them. But they are not the only thing that's been coming along. So more recently, I think Urban Conquest, the 40k expansion, is out tomorrow at the time we're recording this video. So if you are into city fighting and card games, then I think you're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Mm-hmm. Plus it does come with a nice amount of terrain as well.
Yeah, it does actually. They did an unboxing of it on Warhammer Community or Warhammer TV, and I'm trying to find what was in that box.
Was it more than just... I thought it was just objective markers. Is it more than that?
I'm 90% that it is. I just can't...
I think it has the Honoured Imperium set. You know, it's got like the Broken Aquila and the Space Marine statue in that as well, I think.
That's cool.
New scenery. Here we go. So it gives you a objective set and a Fallen Statues set. So there's... like 3 fallen over statues, a few pillars, a big like manhole thingy, and then a bunch of like pylons and ammo caches that would use as objectives.
That's really neat.
You get a 5x5 campaign map, so with 57 cards in 25 slots, you've got a fair bit of customization there, which should be fun. And then a giant pile of rules, and what are those? I have no idea what those are. That's just it looks like a transfer sheet, but it's not a transfer sheet. I have no idea. I'm confused. Help. Oh dear. But yeah, Urban Conquest is one of those that I think if you've got the terrain for it, it will be exceptionally fun. If you don't, then you probably aren't going to buy it. And that's the one sad thing about games like Cities of Death, Urban Conquest, is that they rely so heavily on having a giant pile of terrain, that if you don't have a giant pile of terrain, you're kind of buggered. It's a bit of a shame.
Mm. Oh, I've just noticed something on Forge World. Sorry to change the subject very briefly.
Don't go for it.
Yeah.
Books 4 and 6 of the Horus Heresy Black Book series are no longer available.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter actually, now you mention it.
What do you reckon that's about?
Well, it could simply be... Does it say sold out or no longer available?
Sold out, no longer available.
Okay. Right then.
Cue panic of Horus Heresy being discontinued.
Yeah, with Book 8 right around the corner. Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, I think we'll probably know by the time this episode goes out what's going on with that. It could just be that they're going to do what they did with Necromunda and just roll them all up.
So you reckon we're going to have essentially Black Book omnibuses that are going to be about 1,600 pages wide?
Point taken.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind a 1,600-page book Horus Heresy Black Book thing. I wouldn't mind that if it was to the same quality, but that'll probably cost around 500 quid.
Yeah,
exactly.
You've got to sell the individuals together. They'd have to publish the Legion rules in like mini codices at that point, just so everyone else wasn't completely priced out.
Comes with free Smaug.
Quite. Oh, that happened. The 2018 Miniature of the Year vote has been held. Anyone hazard a guess at the top three?
I want to say Marathi's up there.
I'm going to go with the Man of Iron from Blackstone.
Solid call.
At number 3, the Great Unclean One.
Okay, yeah. That was a good model, in fairness.
Can you repeat
number 2,
that?
Marath. Oh, the Great Unclean One.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 2, Marathi. They actually allowed you to vote for them separately, Shadow Queen and High Oracle, but then they just put them back together anyway.
Well, that was pointless then, wasn't it?
Completely pointless. Marathi actually got my vote, I think. I think I voted for the Shadow Queen.
I mean...
Because I actually worked on that model, and it's bloody gorgeous.
I mean, the only way that you can have them both being number 2 is if there was a draw or something, then fair enough, but what are the odds of them getting a draw?
Yeah.
Right.
The winner, though, was a very late comer to the party.
Spindle Drone.
Noise Marine.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I can justify
know
that, yes.
It's probably not the...
But still, Spindle Drone should have
very
won.
Cool miniature. It might not be the greatest miniature of the year, but I understand why it won. I do. Because it is a fabulous model, even if it isn't. Yeah. There has been Imperial Knights added to Horus Heresy, so yeah, Horus Heresy's not dead. There you go. There's proof. It's not dead. They've added the Knights in. Don't know how well that's gone down. 30k people, do let us know in the comments. And Night Vault is finally going to get its 2 newest warbands, the Dark Oath and Molog the Troggoth, who's actually in the Gloomspite book. I was quite cool to see, with his Bat Squig and his Stalag Squig.
Do you guys play that?
I have a Night Vault warband. I have the Grotz one, but I haven't played it. I really probably should, because my friends actually bought the Zinch one. So the problem is, the only way you can actually play it is to buy the Night Vault box game to get the boards and the rules.
Right.
And that's... I mean, I know it's only 40 quid, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. But then you're buying 2 warbands you don't want, and you've got to then split the deck, because Shadespire and, Underworlds in general is such a competitive-minded game that basically you need all of the decks. It's like playing Magic the Gathering at £17 a booster pack. It's... That's genuinely what my friend called it. It's like playing Magic the Gathering at £17 a booster pack.
Yeah.
So if you want to get all the cards, you need to buy all the different packs. And so I think I'll probably play it, but I don't know if I'd actually go in on it. But then 20 quid to get the boards, and I'll get some free evocators. I'm not going to object, and I'll just fob the Nighthaunt off on someone else.
Yep.
But it's one of those that it's cheap to play, if you're willing to put down the initial money, but then you've got to keep up with the game, and I understand it might not always have the largest player base. And the miniatures are a pain.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't like the plastic they're made of.
Oh, the colored plastic?
Nope, don't like it. Like, it's weird because I've got the Kill Team Commander for the Orcs I got that for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's basically just Gruck Face Ripper but in green plastic. And that model is basically the same as if it was in grey plastic, but the coloured plastic they've used on the Night Vault boxes is like, it just feels like it's not got the same depth of detail in the sculpt.
Okay.
Like the plastic it doesn't feel as refined detail as when they've sculpted it, and it might just be the plastic, or it might just be that I got a Duff box. But I'm not keen on the Night Vault plastics anywhere near as much as I am on regular plastics. It's a weird one.
Just be thankful they're not casting gold plastic, otherwise they disintegrate in your hands.
What did they cast in gold plastic?
Have you not ever heard of gold plastic syndrome?
I have not.
No.
This is a legitimate thing, gold plastic syndrome. It's more a thing for toys rather than, Games Workshop kits, to be honest. But basically, it's something to do with the polymer and the metallic paint. It breaks down and becomes very porous, and it just effectively crumbles to dust.
Huh.
Oh dear.
So basically, if you got a toy cast in gold plastic from, the late 80s or the early 90s, and you squeeze it, it will disintegrate in your hands.
Right. Yeah, I'm showing.
This is why many Transformers collectors will never have a complete Black Zarak.
Yeah, I'm showing my age a little there.
Yes, you
Sorry. But then again, it could also be worse. They could have been cast in metal. And coloured plastic kits is good. It's fine. There's not a problem with it compared to the problems that resin has had if it's not been made by Forge World. We all
Pinecast.
You literally took the words right out of my mouth. But then Forge World seems to be quite good at resin. They actually put out some upgrade kits for the Stormcast today.
Yeah,
so
very excited
they're
about
getting
that.
some bear heads for your Stormcast Eternals, 10 male, 10 female, which is nice.
Yep.
What are you laughing at?
The Stormcaster getting some head.
Really? Really, Remleiz?
The joke was there, obvious. It had to be taken.
You're lucky I don't have space on my desk to put my head on it. Aish. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'll be honest though, with Stormcast, I still like to think of them as being literally just like lightning in armor, sort of like animated armor type things, as opposed to actual people sometimes. So none of my Stormcast have actually got bear heads, so meh.
I like when it's all or the other. Like, I want an entire army of helmets or not. I don't know. Mixing them in is like, meh. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't take my flesh paints away when I was building that army, so it was just like, yeah, alright, leave Black Talon. Yeah, you're having the helmeted head even if I don't like it. Gavriel Shoreheart, yeah, you need a head swap, mate.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah.
I hate that. There are some kits, and Gavriel Shoreheart's one of them, that are just weirdly obnoxiously designed. So I ranted about this about 8 months ago, I think. But the way his body is sculpted is that his hair sort of is sculpted into his shoulder. So if you want to do a head swap, you've got to perform a plastic surgery on his shoulder, cut half of his shoulder pad out, and then put a new piece in, and then file off all the rest of the hair, and then you can put a new head in. It's just some kits where they've got like some of the dynamic crossovers of stuff. It's the one gripe I have actually about modern kits. And I know I sound like I'm really ragging on G-Dubs this episode and I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. But I do worry that some of the kits these days just don't have the conversion potential they used to have. Personally.
I'd agree with that. I think they're definitely trimming that down. I don't know. There was a while there where I thought like, oh, they're getting rid of multi-kits altogether because they just had a whole bunch of not snap fit, but single pose things like the Plague Marines type stuff. A lot of that for AOS. But then, I don't know, some kits come out and they're very dynamic and posable, so I'm not quite sure what they're thinking about as a design studio.
Yeah, the example I've got is if I take my daughter to Kane. So instead of being like flat arm to shoulder joints, the arm's like sculpted into the back. So, or there's a bit missing out of the back that you push the arms into. So you can't just do a straight arm swap. It's just a bit less conversion friendly. Like if you're good at converting, I'm sure you could still do some fantastic stuff with any kit you wanted, but it's a little bit less noob friendly, for want of a better word.
I get that. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
To bring it back to 40k, because I know that's what probably 90% of you are here for. Sorry. The Gene Stealer cult's got another new hero. Like, as if they didn't already have, like, 10 new ones coming from the New Year's Open Day and stuff like that. They've received the Biophagus, a specialist in gene manipulation and bioalchemy, used for contamination and indoctrination. So there's basically just like a doctor who's a Gene Stealer cultist.
That's just awesome.
Yeah,
do we have any word on when the Codex is actually coming out?
I've not heard anything.
It doesn't say anything like that. It just sort of says the day of Ascension looms.
God damn it, just give me my goddamn Gene Stealer cult Codex.
Yeah, like I think if they're actually showing off rules at this point, then once they go through the next set of pre-order, so at the minute, what's going on to pre-order, I think, is Beta Garment, so Titan Death, as well as the 2 new Night Vault things, and they'll be out the week this episode comes out. I think the week after that, it has to be Gene Stealers. They pushed them back way too far. Yeah. Some would argue. Like, as much as I love the fact we got Gloomspite when we got Gloomspite, they did push Gene Stealer cults back to make it happen, and that's a little bit sad.
And also, what Codex will come out after Gene Stealers then? Will it be Sisters, do you reckon? Or?
I think Sisters are going to be toward the back end of the year. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing Sisters probably until at least the late summer.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I'm gonna stick my neck out, and I'm gonna say, actually, I'm trying to think of armies that don't have a Codex at this point. Hang on.
Imperial Agents.
Yeah, but with the Imperial Agents, they're pulling Sororitas out of that. So how much are they going to keep in, and how much are they going to pull out, and that sort of thing?
Well, the real question is, will the Sisters of Silence get their own Codex again this edition? Because they did have that tiny one for 7th edition, didn't they? So
they did, but they'd need a serious giant pile of stuff, like more stuff than the Custodians got.
Yeah, but the Custodians got fuck all. It's literally just here's some Terminators and here's some jet bikes. There you go, job's done. Have a book has less pages than the Harlequin Codex, yet is £5 more expensive. And yes, I am still salty about that.
I was going to say, you haven't let that one go.
No, I haven't let that one go. I mean, I buy all the codexes when they come out, and I get really annoyed when a codex that small is more expensive than one that's bigger than that, and the Harlequin one's got bugger all in it to begin with anyway. And it's got more than the Custodians.
Yeah, I mean, the Harlequins have got Troop Master, Death Jester, Shadow Seer, Sky Weavers, Star Weavers, and I'm out. I think there probably is one more, and I can't. Void Weavers, that's it. And then the Custodians have got the Custodian Guard, the
Terminators and jet bikes.
The jet bikes, the Land Raider, and then the Vexless Praetor, Trajan Valoris, the Shield Captain, the Terminator Armor is probably a separate war scroll. Sorry, data sheet. There's technically more units in that book, but I do take your point. But yeah, I think if they're going to... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, but speaking of books as well, tomorrow the limited edition of the Celestine novel comes out, which is £5 cheaper than other limited edition novels, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird. Not complaining, just...
But then again, after seeing some pictures on Twitter of when people managed to get an early copy, like next to the Sacrosanct Age of Sigmar book, and it's like half the size.
I mean, Sacrosanct... Which one was Sacrosanct? Is that the Josh Reynolds one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, that was that's AOS 2, the novella, kind of. So, I understand why that's quite a big book.
Also, funny thing as well, someone got an English copy of Sacrosanct and the German copy is literally twice as thick.
Oh. It's usually the other way around.
Well, don't think it was like German. It's like, you got 3 long words to represent a one short English word or something in some instances.
Yeah, but then I look at a lot of battle tomes and codices, and they're often a little bit... Obviously, novels are different to codices, but foreign language versions are often missing information. Like some of the lore isn't always there. Sometimes things get stripped back a tad, or at least it feels like they do, in order to either keep within the page count because those languages waffle on a bit more, or they just genuinely take a bit out and make them cheaper. Because like my Daughters of Cain book was like €20, and you don't pay 20 quid for a battle tome ever.
Unless it's the Harlequin book.
And we're back to the Harlequin book. Yeah. Just quickly popping back to that Biophagus. This guy actually is basically Illuminor Caesaras, the Gene Stealer, because he actually buffs an aberrant unit once every single turn. Each unit can only buff once per game, but he basically just gives aberrant a strength toughness or attack buff, which is kind of nice. And they run around with a tiny Gene Stealer familiar holding a giant smoking test tube that can give them a reroll.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Have you seen the model, by the way? Because it's I don't know whether
it's adorable. It is adorable. He's got his little beaker. He's like, I made a science. I made a science.
Good news, everyone. The Aberrants are even more overpowered. Knew someone had to go there. Oh dear. Is there anything else particularly in the news? Oh, this. Minor thing. Harken World Claimer got changed in the chapter approved / Vintilus Defiant FAQ.
Yeah.
So there was a weird thing in his data sheet where he buffed all raptors in the army or within like 12 inches or whatever it is. And then they clarified it to be all Black Legion raptors. So in effect they nerfed it. And then people got annoyed, so they unnerfed it. And I think that is probably the first time we've ever seen an unnerfing of something that quickly. It was like a couple of days later, it was like, oh, right, okay, we're just going to unnerf him now? Are you happy?
And the answer was resounding, no, we're not happy.
Exactly.
Because he's still underpowered as hell.
Because we want a new Abaddon model still. That will be the majority of people's complaints still. It's like, hey, Vintilus Defiant. Ooh, let's look at the models. Oh, Abaddon's still using his crappy 2nd edition model.
Point.
Mm-hmm.
To which point he uses Horus Heresy model. Use that instead and convert it.
I don't like that either, though.
That's why I say convert it.
I was going to say, yeah, I would never use modern day Typhus either. Ugh, that model is disgusting. I hate that model.
The current one?
I've seen some conversions of it that make it look pretty good. Like the one, someone's done it where they swap the raised scythe for like a guardsman and put the scythe in his hand so he's like choking a guardsman. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Oh, it's fabulous if you can convert it. But old Typhus looked like he was just coming to rip your face off and he was terrifying. Kalas Typhon, the 30k version, is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, I love that model. I actually bought that model for one of my friends and they barely ever played 30k. Because it's so damn gorgeous.
Mm.
But, yeah, I'm not so keen on new Typhus. Good to convert, I guess.
All right.
Now, speaking of Typhus, he's going to get a bit of a spotlight in the next Horus Heresy novel, or should I say the last Horus Heresy novel.
Yeah, it's the end of the Death Guard, is it? Well, it's...
The Buried Dagger it's called,
yeah.
I believe, yeah. It's the detailing the Death Guard's voyage through the warp to Terra.
And that's when they become the Death Guard that we know,
Typhus
right?
goes... Yes, that's when they all become Plague Marines.
Yeah, I get the feeling that that's going to be one of the creepiest reads of the year. It's going to be up there. Maybe not quite a level of Warhammer horror, but it's going to be in that direction, I suspect.
Now, speaking of Horus Heresy, I've managed to make a good way through the Titan Death novel. I'll be honest, I'm kind of disappointed because I've heard people say good things and I found most of it a bit of a slog. But there are some interesting things about it, like, the Sanguinius, cutting off the head of an Imperator.
What?
It's a Sanguinius, he can do that.
I know he's Sanguinius, but, like, his sword probably is...
No, it was a spear.
So what did he do? Like, just use it as a giant crowbar, just jam it into the neck joint and twist.
No. He basically dive bombed the head, shot the spear at the head to make a hole. He dropped through the hole, planted a shit ton of melt charges, and just literally just walked out of the eye socket as it blew up behind him. Didn't jump, he just walked out like, cool guys don't look at explosions type thing.
Oh, Sanguinius, why are you so over the top?
And he was screaming, I do not die today. Because he was having, going back to visions of his death at the hands of Horus. Mm-hmm. And we know that he's not choked to death, he gets smacked in the face to death. Because the final vision is of Worldbreaker coming towards his head.
Okay.
Also,
that's...
there's a flashback of a female Titan princess who's heavily pregnant while she's piloting a Titan. I was like, oh, okay then. I didn't think that was actually a thing, but apparently it is. Okay then. You'd think the Mechanicus would, have a heavily pregnant woman, it's like, you might want to not pilot Titan for a week or two or something, I don't know. Then again, this is 40k or 30k, whatever.
Yeah, somehow I think the Mechanicum's policy is, this is the only person who can keep this Titan under control. Mm-hmm. We need the Titan.
Yeah.
That sounds like the Mechanicum.
Yeah. And also mind control units as well, for guardsmen having these little, mind control chips implanted into their heads.
That's awesome.
Like Imperial Mind Shackle Scarab type things?
Kind of, yeah, but they're Dark Mechanicum. Oh, sorry, New Mechanicum. It's like, we're not the Dark Mechanicum, they just call us that because they're idiots. We're the New Mechanicum. It's like, sure you are. But yeah, I'm currently on page...
Are you sure Kelbor Ha wasn't called Daniel Bryan or something?
No, Daniel Bryan's actually likeable.
Oh, good point. Sorry, anyway, carry on.
But I'm currently on page 370 so far.
That's quite long, then.
Out of 440-something.
That's not bad. So what else have you been reading if you've had time for anything else?
Well, I managed to finish Carrion Throne, which has a few interesting things, like the Drukhari homunculus that nearly made it all the way to the Eternity Gate at the front of a horde of 60 grotesques.
Lovely.
Bear in mind this all takes place prior to Fall of Cadia as well, because it actually has one of the same custodians from Watchers of the Throne in it. So, same author. One of the benefits. Also, one thing that's really interesting, there's a bit where an Inquisitor looks upon this, big mural on the wall, and it has the Emperor enthroned, surrounded by 20 knights, and the Inquisitor says, nine of these knights look like, Ministorum-sanctioned images of the Loyalist Primarchs, but why are there 20? So it's
how, I know the Imperial is supposed to be uneducated, but this is the Inquisition for goodness sake.
Yes.
Come on.
Not only that, Order Hereticus.
Yep.
That's no excuse. That makes it worse.
I know, that's what makes it funny.
That's just bad.
But can we just talk about the fact that there is a mural inside the Imperial Palace that has all 20 Primarchs? Considering that, the statues of the two lost Primarchs had been torn down during, the Great Crusade.
And presumably the 9 traitors got torn down after the Heresy.
Yeah.
Presumably.
But the fact of the matter is, all of them are there.
Wait,
still.
Where was this mural? Was it right next to the throne room, or are we talking in the outer
It
grounds?
was in a passage before the room that holds the Eternity Gate.
Okay, so it's pretty much anyone who's in there by right should know. So it's, but, well, apart from this idiot. But that seems like that's the realm of the Custodes, and they ought to know. So I guess, maybe it's all right. But
also, there's 4 Titans sitting in the Imperial Palace, not 2. There's 2 Warhounds, which everyone knows of.
Yeah.
But guarding the Eternity Gate are 2 Reavers. And the reason it's Reavers and not Warlords is because Reavers are the only ones that can actually fit in there.
I was going to say it probably is to do with size.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you have to admit, it's pretty well defended if you've got 2 Warhounds and 2 Reavers. But it's still, a Drukhari homunculus and 60 grotesques managed to breach the walls of the Imperial Palace from underground and just basically, walked in through the Imperial Palace and it took like an Inquisitor and about 200 Tempestus Scions, big fight, then 5 Custodians show up and wreck everyone's shit.
I mean, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But that's and then you go back to the war.
And then the Inquisitor decides to turn on the Custodians because, we need that homunculus alive. Why? Because he needs to fix the Golden Throne. And the Custodian's like, what? It's like, yeah, we kind of made a deal, 3 of the High Lords of Terror to, bring the Drukhari to fix the Golden Throne, but he kind of betrayed us. It's like, you think?
Never saw
you
that
think
coming.
a homunculus would betray you? Yeah. Interestingly, the High Lords who were involved appear to be the Fabricator General of Mars, the head of the Adeptus Telepathica, and the head of the Charter's captains.
The first 2 make sense. I've not heard of the third.
It's basically the head of the merchant fleets.
Okay.
Okay, that's an odd one. The Fabricator General makes sense because working with the Mechanica. The Astra Telepathica makes sense because, well, they're the ones powering the bloody thing. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why the merchant fleet is so involved, apart from trying to get them in unseen, but then they just went underground and attacked it anyway. Yeah.
And while the Inquisition and the Custodians are arguing, it's like, hey, where did the homunculus go? Yeah, he was, before he got killed, he said, he just wanted to see the Carrion throne. To which someone says, haha, he said it.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I said the homunculus says he wanted to see the Carrion throne before the Emperor died.
Okay.
Okay, that's an interesting way to put it.
I also managed to finally get around to listening to Prophets of the War.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's bloody brilliant.
That's Guy Haley, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's a direct sequel to Evil Sun Rising. Direct sequel. Which makes it even better.
Yeah, because that was... I remember we talked about that in a previous episode with the... what was it?
About a Gazgul Thraken novel, and the only person who can write it is Guy Haley, because he's the only person who's ever written orcs properly from a point of view.
Yeah, but Evil Sun Rising was the one with the orc who's deciding on his beer or something. What was it?
Tea.
Tea. That was it, not beer. Tea.
Orc tea. So, do you want a cup of tea, boss?
Yeah.
Squig
So
tea.
any particular highlights from this one? Was it up to the same standard?
Even better.
Oh.
And also, at the beginning of every episode, because there's 3 episodes, it starts off speaking in orc. So you got an orc going orc snag rogla no snick threg slag orc, or whatever, and then it just cuts, and all the music just stops dead quiet, and you just hear Toby Longworth just deadpan translating it into English. So he's like, orc snag rogla snick slag. Boscat wasn't very happy. It's just a deadpan delivery that made it brilliant.
Yeah, I can imagine that just seeing that written wouldn't really work, but yeah, the delivery makes it. And I'm sure there's plenty of gems of one-liners and references and stuff buried away in there because it's and it's Guy Haley.
We got a reference to the Rebel Grots.
Nice.
We got the Red Grot Revolution.
Nice.
Who actually managed to slaughter an entire ship full of blood axes.
Fair.
Yeah. And we got another canon representation of orcs surviving decapitation because there's a blood axe head just sitting there, decapitated head, but it's still alive, and he's talking, and Boscat's holding it and going how the hell are you talking with no lungs?
I don't know, I just is.
It's a valid question, you have to admit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a completely valid question, but this is orcs. Orcs do this sort of bullshit every day.
We also have a term for what baby orcs are called.
Oh?
Wild boys.
Oh, that's just what they call feral orcs.
Yeah, but these are just baby orcs, a whole bunch of baby orcs, and because a whole bunch of them just sprung them out of the ground literally overnight, And the orcs were like, where do all these wild boys come from?
Now that makes a measure of sense in that the idea that feral orcs, when they meet up with a major war or a tribe or whatever and tech up, they kind of grow up into proper orcs. So that term makes sense. It's just I've never thought I'd see it applied to young orcs.
And then when you got one of the mechs, it's not Bosgat, it's one of the other ones. But he's basically telling them all to shut up, and he just basically pulls out his slug and starts shooting. And all the wild boys are like, we want boom fist, we want boom fist. It's not a boom fist, it's a gun.
Dear, oh dear.
And they're like, boom fist, it's a gun, boom gun.
No, that's what's on the wagon outside, you bleeding idiots. Don't ask where the accents are coming from. We don't know.
There's a bit of an interesting thing, because this takes place like shortly after the Secretrix Maledictum opens. So it was basically that opening that caused all the orcs to crash land on this world.
Right.
Yet there's Primaris Marines on the world already.
What? No.
Yeah, that... At least I assume it is, because, Bosco goes like, oh look, beakies, but they're bigger than usual.
Do we get a chapter name?
It's in the War Faker. It takes place, but we don't actually get an actual name of the Space Marine chapter itself.
Yeah, that's what I meant, not the chapter.
Oh, sorry, my bad. It's just that they're there with their mech boys. Big beakies with their mech boys. And there's like a big psionic generator that has a captured weird boy inside it.
I mean, Primaris don't have tech marines yet, canonically in game.
Well, what about the one on top of the repulsor?
Maybe?
Because that's a tech marine, and that's a Primaris vehicle.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the top of the repulsor then off the top of my head, and I was struggling. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I'm sure if you needed to ask Guy, I'm sure you can.
No, it could be tech priests. If they're just, Umi mech boys or whatever, or their mech boys.
Yeah, that's also possible. Could absolutely just be tech priests.
I mean, considering that the Primaris start off with, the Mechanicus anyway, rather than chapters.
Right.
Yeah, they did.
So it's probably one of the earliest instances of probably Belisarius Cawl trying an experiment anyway.
Yeah,
Who
that
knows?
sounds like cool.
Who knows?
Though what you want an orc weird boy for, I wouldn't even know why. But anyway, moving on. I can't really say I've been reading anything aside from, a giant pile of revision notes because I've had exams this week, and the Gloomspite Battle Tome has pretty much been my mandatory, when not revising, read. So that's basically what I've been doing most of the time. Just we talked about it very briefly earlier on, and just like the detail in here, it is absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any? What was the thing that I remember? Oh, that was it. Where's his name?
Bruce.
Oh, where is it? It's the ones. These guys, the Bad Snatchers. There's this. Okay, so the way the Gloomspite work is they want to usher in this thing called, and yes, pardon the memes, the Everdank.
It's my favorite.
Anyway, so the idea is they sort of blot out the sun, or Glareface Frazzlegit, or whatever his name is in their language, and they want to sort of just block out the sun, usher in the bad moon, and all of that stuff, and the entire mortal realms go to hell. Now, Ulgu is the realm of shadow. It's the opposite to the realm of light, which is the sun, effectively. And because they live in the realm of shadow, it's obviously dark a lot. So they've basically decided that they've already done it. Their sort of logic is they have already ushered in the Everdank because where they live is perpetually in twilight and just happens to be so because it's Ulgu. And they decide, yeah, we've done it, now let's go and do it everywhere else. They can't do it anywhere else, they're incompetent. But it's just like, dear oh dear, it's just like, no. I read that, I just found that hilarious.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The writing in that book, like, I don't know, because I haven't read all the 40k codexes. Do you guys read the lore in them anymore, or are you kind of past that?
I mean, it's my job, so yes.
Okay. Well, no, I only ask because some people, like, once they do lore coverage early on, if a new book comes out, they don't even bother. But the reason I ask that is because in AOS, like, every other faction that's come out, they have this very well-defined, clear end game. Like, Stormcast, when they push all the chaos out, Khorne wants to do his thing, Tzeentch his thing, respectively, what their end game is. But MoonClan, it's so, like, they don't really have a plan to make any of their stuff happen. So I think their end game lore isn't very strong, but like the lore that puts them in the context of the realms, like exactly your example there, right? This specific Grot horde in Ulgu is top notch. Like they just kind of, the lore that puts them in context of the universe is top notch, better than any other.
Yeah, and when a lot of people, I'm running a Q&A right now for my 5th birthday on YouTube. And one of the comments in there is basically just saying it completely slates the new writing and the new style around the 40k's had since 8th edition and the return of Guilliman and whatnot. And it's interesting you mentioned about end games and stuff like that, because 40k isn't really a universe designed really around end games. So like the Eldari don't have an end game.
Their end game is survival.
Yeah, their end game is just don't die. Unless they're the Ynnari, in which case it means die a lot so that they get their god back, beside the point. The Tau, aside from conquer everything for the greater good, don't have an end game. The Imperium is, well, you could argue it's not just stay alive now, but generally stay alive has been the Imperium's end game.
Totally.
And they've never really had a plan of how to do it. Whereas Age of Sigmar, as you said, everyone has an end game, or at least has a means to an end. Like, I'm not going to say the Idoneth have an end game, because they don't. Their end game is basically, leave us alone, you sadistic murderous everyone, and we'll take your soul if you don't. But they don't have the same end game as, say, the Stormcast do. If anything, the Gloomspite, okay, they don't have a plan, but that's just because they're Grots, and Grots are incompetent. Yes,
exactly, yeah.
But they have a goal in mind, and they have a lot of, as you say, things that contextualize why they're there, why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that's a critique that I think a lot of people might level at new 40k, is there's a lot of stuff happening. Whether you like the writing style is up to you. But it's like, this is happening. But why is this happening? Why are these particular people here? And with Vigilus, they've kind of sort of got around that problem, because Vigilus is the new Armageddon. It's the new Cadia. It's the vital linchpin that keeps Imperium Sanctus and Imperium Nihilus linked together, so it has to be held. That's why everybody's there. But why are the G-Stealers there? Just cause? Why are there orcs there? Because they just crash-landed there. Right, so Imperium makes sense. Chaos makes sense. And AOS had this problem a lot, actually, back in its older days, is nothing had any context. Because it was just like, all right, so why is this army fighting that army? No idea. Because we have no context for anything.
Totally get it.
Excuse me.
Tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just needed a drink.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, as far as my rating, it's just been the Grot Codex as well.
I mean, there's certainly worse things you could be reading. Cough, Descent of Angels.
Yeah, also, I have a...
That's just the safe fallback. If you need to roast something, just go after Descent of Angels.
Yes. Or failing that, Damnation of Pythos. Oh. I mean, literally, that book has no point to exist unless you want the prequel to Pandorax.
Fair. Oh, actually, I've just remembered something from this Gloomspite book that's just hit me again, because I've just flipped to the right page. How closely, have you read the Ragnarok spider stuff?
I went through it yesterday morning. Why do you ask?
Because if you look at the Ragnarok Spider's War Scroll, like the basic one, with the Spider-Fang War Party, it has an extra rule that represents the fact that it's stupid fast. Let me just remind myself. Where is it? Spider-Man with War Party has Voracious Predator. It can reroll when it charges, and it does mortal wounds on the charge. Now, no other Ragnarok has that rule.
Yes.
And the reason is because the Arachnaroks with the war parties are the youngest Arachnaroks. The ones that have grown up a bit, that have calmed down a little bit, are the ones that are mounted with flingers, and that become the ones mounted with catchweb spider shrines, or the ones that live in Shaiish and come through temporary realm gates and eat your face off. Yes, skitter strands are amazing. But I love the fact that they actually tied the reason why they have this bonus rule back into the lore. It just makes a lot of sense when you actually stop and think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. They do that quite a bit. You see it a lot when they take a unit that already exists and then, based on the weapon loadout, turn it into different war scrolls. Kind of like they did with the Lehman Russ. They just made different kinds of vehicles type thing. They do that same thing because they do that same thing in Flesh Eater Courts. Does that several times. Like, functionally the same kit, you arm the weapons differently, and they give you lore reasons as to why they're different and special rules to match that, just like the Ragnarok, for sure.
Yeah, also, while we're on Flesh Eater Courts, by the way, that new Ghoul King War Dance thingamajig, that model is gorgeous. Can we just point that out?
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. That's going to be a big one.
I don't like the fact that... Do you think we're going to get a new Flesh Eaters battle tome for that?
So... I don't put a lot of stock in rumors. I know the current one circulating is now that 40k is all in the same edition, they want to do the same thing for AOS. Because the first wave of AOS battle tomes are not in a good place. Like, they're really fun to read, cool art, but rules wise they're rough.
Yeah, they've got no command. Well, all their special rules like allegiance abilities, command traits, and whatnot are all buried in the General's Handbook, and then never as fleshed out as a battle tome. For example. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a big disparity there. So I think it wouldn't surprise me. I hope the company sees value in everything being on the same page from us as customers' perspective. But all that to say, I sure hope so.
Yeah, the only challenge is if they want to redo Flesh Eater Courts, I have no objections because I think Flesh Eater Courts. Like, I had a plan to do a Fallout themed Flesh Eater Courts army, so Crypt Horus super mutants. Crypt ghouls as feral ghouls with like the like what's the word I'm looking for? Courtiers being like feral ghoul reavers, glowing one ghoul kings. That and maybe now that 76 has come out and firebombed, a Scorch Beast Terrorgeist type thing. Because I mean, come on, look at the damn thing.
Yep. Is that the dragon from Skyrim?
But it basically is, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but. I do like Flesh Eaters, but the problem is if they go back and redo Flesh Eaters for AOS 2, there's a giant pile of armies that haven't got a book in AOS 1 or 2. So, for example, the other army in that box game, Skaven, they've got nothing apart from Pestilence. So, are they going to redo Pestilence before they've got round to doing Scryer? That's not fair.
In fairness, I think... That new box set might have like mini war tomes or something in it, like what it did with
Oh, it's going to have to because it's introduced brand new units into the game. It has to have its own self-contained war scrolls. Yeah. It might come with allegiance abilities, but I doubt it.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they did the exact same thing with Blight War, which was the Stormcast versus Nurgle stuff. That's where we saw the Nurgle basically allegiance ability before Nurgle had their book in their battle tome.
Oh yes, it did.
So
I
that
bought that box. I should know that.
It came out 4 months before the actual battle tome, so people had a chance to get their hands on it, play around with it. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. I'd forgotten that completely. Yeah, I don't know if they did it. Did they do it in Wrath and Rapture?
Wrath and Rapture. Well, there's new War Scrolls out. I don't think there's new allegiance abilities for at least not in AOS. I don't know about 40k, but.
Yeah, I don't know if they updated the Slaanesh ones when they brought the...
No, but Slaanesh has a pretty robust and interesting thing in the General's Handbook.
True.
I'm not sure how much more they need, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's true enough. But yeah, I think the fact that I was under the impression when AOS came out, it was going to be sort of like a one and done rule set. Like, they'd update it and stuff, but I didn't expect we were going to get a second edition. Like, I was under the illusion that it was just like, right, here's the setting, here's the rules, go. That's it. And we'll get new lore as we go, we'll get new models as we go. I never expected a second edition. I don't know why I was just under the wrong impression.
Oh, they marketed that way. I mean, they made it seem like it was the ultimate pinnacle of stuff, and I feel like they did the same thing with 40k. Like, oh, this is the new 40k. We're just going to do updates, and now we're so far with FAQs that it might as well be another edition. But whatever.
Yeah, 8th edition has gone through a lot of changes, and it speaks volumes that 40k has gone through 2 massive rounds of FAQs that have rebooted the game.
Yeah,
and Sigmar hasn't.
Yep, it's true.
Since it's been redone, it got its big FAQ, which was basically a designer's commentary.
Speaking of rumors and that, because I just remembered. So, bear in mind, this is just a rumor, so take this with an incredibly large pinch of salt. But
I'll go get a bloody great.
but apparently, this year they're going to reissue Realm of Chaos: Lost in the Damned, like what they did with Slaves to Darkness, in honor of its 30th anniversary.
Now, what is Lost in the Damned for those of us / the viewers?
Lost in the Damned is the second of the original Realm of Chaos books that focused on Tzeentch and Nurgle specifically, and it focused both in 40k and fantasy at the time. It also had the earliest depictions of the Horus Heresy and stuff like that as well.
Is that the one?
As well as things like, the Star Child, the Sensei, and all that as well.
Is that the one that has that iconic piece of artwork with the giant Great Unclean One in the background? Is that from Lost in the Damned? I know the image I'm thinking of. It's a really iconic Nurgle image, and it's got an original Great Unclean One at the back in the artwork. Oh,
Now, if you look on the front of that cover as well, it's all Warhammer Fantasy Chaos Warriors, but you see one's got a bolter.
Was that back in the day when what are they called? Space Marines could hop into the fantasy world?
I don't know if they could ever hop into the fantasy world, but you did have some characters being able to use equipment from 40k in fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, it is that image. Somehow if they do another crossover event, I get the fact people are either going to go, stop it, or they're going to go, oh, I told you so, Sigmar is the Emperor, get out.
I mean, I'm personally all for this, because just for the fact I want a copy of Lost in the Damned that isn't falling apart at the spine due to being 30 years old.
Oh, I'm completely down for a Lost in the Damned reissue. I'm down with that. I'm more about the whole redoing a crossover event that I'm not down with.
I don't think they're going to redo it as a crossover. I think they're just going to say, hey, this is one of the original books that people want to pay a lot of money for. We're just going to sell it, at Warhammer World. Come here and buy it. It doesn't actually have any influence on the actual current setting.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of like, because don't forget, at Warhammer World, you can still buy first edition rulebook.
Huh.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they reissued the first edition rulebook in hardback. I should know, I've got a copy.
Of course.
That's kind of awesome.
I've actually got 2 copies of the first edition rulebook, one in the original paperback and one in the reissue hardback.
Nice.
Just because the original paperback was falling apart, and it's like, hey, this is actually available Warhammer World, and it's brand new, and it's high quality. It's like, yes, I want a copy so it doesn't fall apart.
Exactly, yeah.
You mentioned to me earlier about Lost in the Damned, and when you said Lost in the Damned, I didn't go straight to, oh, they're going to reissue this classic book from 30 years ago. My thought was, wait, Chaos Cultist Renegade Guard Codex?
Yep, exactly. That's what I was thinking when you said it too.
That would be cool, in fairness.
It would be. Though I think if that was the rumour going around, I get the feeling that would get kind of lost and mixed up with the fact that I think Dark Oath are going to get a release this year in AOS because they're like the equivalent. Like,
yeah.
Like cultists and marauders, and I have no idea what they're going to do to Slaves to Darkness. I want Everchosen, Slaves to Darkness, back together, then put Dark Oath separately, and then we go. Like, what is Everchosen doing in its own book? It's ridiculous.
Oh, and I'm trying to remember if it was Slaves to Darkness or Lost in the Damned from the Realm of Chaos book that had the Skaven Demon Prince.
That's before my time, I don't know.
His name was Queethel, I think his name was. He was also available to players in 40k. That was a glorious time. It was a magical time. I mean, I think this is around the time when Ian Watson started writing his novels.
Oh, really? I read a few of his stuff, I believe. Yeah. It was a while ago.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get any of that. I lost that entire conversation.
Don't worry, we were talking about Ian Watson.
Oh, good. I'm glad I missed it then.
I take it you're not aware of the full extent of the Ian Watson Appreciation Society, are you?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
You need to check out the episode where we did some live readings. It was some glorious stuff.
No. I don't have many regrets.
I mean, I can bring up the ebook now if you want to read some passages.
Ram!
What's his biggest book that he's written? I'm trying to think if
Inquisitor, the Inquisition War trilogy.
Okay, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm sorry.
He also did.
I don't think I've read anything by him.
He also did Space Marine, the very first Space Marine novel, which was weird. Like, he had Space Marines being recruited from Necromunda, using lasguns, piloting Titans, fighting Tzeentch-worshipping squats, and within literally the bowels of a Tyranid hive ship.
Is the whole Space Marines being recruited from Necromunda still...
That is canon, but I'm talking about being recruited from adults.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because the Imperial Fists have, like... It's weird like how the Imperial Fists work. They have 2 recruiting worlds, one of which is Necromunda. Not Terra, it's Necromunda.
According to the new Necromunda rulebook, the reason why the Imperial Fists have Necromunda as a recruiting world is because they were given that world to recruit from after saving it from an orc invasion during the Great Crusade.
Like, I know that I think the other story of how the Imperial Fists and Necromunda fit together, it was the Arrhenius, whatever, continuity war. Necromunda was their home system. It wasn't called Necromunda back then, it was called Arrhenius or whatever else. And the Imperial Fists crushed that continuity in about a month. And just as the continuity surrendered, some random ass, like, black vessels materialized out of nowhere, wrecked the hell out of everything, were way too powerful for the Fists to be. And then, if I remember correctly, did they just, like, naff off after that?
Probably.
Oh, it was warp gates. They came out of warp gates that were linking the whole continuity together. And then the Imperial Fist destroyed the warp gates, and the enemy disappeared. It was like, was this just like a random Chaos fleet? But this was before Chaos Marines were a thing. And like that's the other reason why I think Necromunda... That's why Necromunda got its name, according to that version of the story.
Yeah, and...
Yeah, I don't know.
And also, Necromunda literally has everything on it. It has a contingent of Space Marines that permanently live upon it. It has a convent of the Adeptus Sororitas on it. It has Gene Stealer cults, it has Chaos cults, it has orcs. It literally has everything on that world.
And some sweet gang wars.
Yes.
I have to wonder how the Sororitas get on with House Cawdor and the borderline illegal redemptionist cult.
Well, they share the same hive, apparently. The hive that actually has the Adeptus Sororitas convent is also a House Cawdor stronghold.
Yeah, it's where the ecclesiarchy headquarters is for the planet.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like Cawdor is basically in the pocket of the Redemptionists, but is also separate from the Redemptionists because the Redemptionists go on these mass purging crusades, and that can't have that.
I'm just more curious how the Redemptionists are going to react if the Sisters of Battle ever go down hive, considering that, you know, in the novel Outlander, the Redemptionists view all women as being unclean due to being women. So it's going to be like, you're women, you're unclean. It's like, we're Sisters of Battle, bitch. Bang, burn.
Well, that would... God forbid they run across House Escher. Because that would be quite the culture clash.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
I'm still waiting. So when we're going to get our Imperial Fist kill teams, you know, in Necromunda. There'd be a canonical reason for them.
Oh, I know there'd be a canonical reason, but I think it'd almost be better off like porting the Necromunda teams to Kill Team than adding Space Marines into the Necromunda game and just breaking it. Is there anything else sort of news and discussion-wise that I might have missed? Oh, there was the rumor engine. I wanted to bring this up.
Oh, is that the
rumor engine?
The insect wing thing?
Yeah, the wing. Like, I'm like, I've seen people say Vespid. Like, I went over toward. Well, actually, I don't know what I went toward, but I heard Vespid. I was like,
You pull that up and take a look.
I'm going to go on a limb and say it's a cloak.
What, like it would be like a flesh cloak if that were the case.
Exactly.
Because it's so. But then it's also barbed at the edges. It's not like it's barbed with hooks. It's properly just like natural spikes. Almost like a scourge wing as opposed to a homunculus cloak.
Who said it had to be a homunculus cloak?
But you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I'm just being pedantic.
Fine. I mean, it almost looks like a leaf.
Oh, I guess that's going to be more Sylvaneth stuff then.
I can see.
I'd be down.
I can see the Vespid wing. It kind of has the same lines as like the crystals they did like on some of the Trogoth stuff, the rocks that they're carrying, but they don't end in some kind of barbs.
I guess we'll see. There is a very handy thread that goes around on the forums of like every rumor engine ever, including solutions, when they get put out. So it'll come out eventually. People will work it out. Oh, that's reminds me. There was something I saw on the forums the other day. Oh, what was it? I remember. A thread was: is there any model that you in your army that you could collect that you just will never collect for one reason or another?
Say that again. Sorry.
So, for example, in an army that you collect,
right,
is there a model or a kit that you would absolutely, on principle, never buy? So, like, for me, it's the Tau Storm Surge, because I think that thing is ugly as sin. Like, the only redeeming quality about that thing is if you give it to hold its big pulse driver cannon and you green stuff massive arms for it. That's the only way you save the Storm Surge. It's ugly as hell, and I hate it, and I will never buy it. As an example. And other people were saying, oh, yeah, Centurions, because I think they look stupid. Or Thunderwall Cavalry, because they make no goddamn sense. Or whatever.
Well, I just started doing Space Wolves. I'm up there with the cavalry. I don't care for them.
I also recommend not buying Ragnar Blackmane with his baby boosty shoes until he gets a new model.
But then if you want to buy new Space Wolf models, you've got to buy bloody Logan and his Santa sleigh, or... I mean, the new Ulrich's not bad, but I kind of, in a weird way, prefer the old Ulrich with the actual...
Yeah, he actually looked cooler then. Now he just looks grumpy old man.
Like a chaplain. Yeah, now he's just a chaplain who happens to look a bit wolfy. Before he looked like a proper
with an eye patch. He's a
yeah,
pirate.
Also that, yeah.
Yar har fiddly dee. Riding wolves is just fine with me. Do what you want, because a pirate is free, even though I'm a space wolf.
Damn it.
Also, that song's really stuck in people's heads now, I guarantee it.
Yeah. I think if I went over to the AOS site, is there anything with Stormcast that I wouldn't buy?
Stormcast.
I probably wouldn't buy a Taurolon, because I wouldn't buy... I don't want to spend 70, 80 quid on a Taurolon.
Yep.
But then again, the model's utterly gorgeous. So I kind of would, but then I wouldn't, but then I would.
I can sympathise with Imperial Guard players not wanting to buy a Taurox or whatever it is, the one that looks better when you give it wheels.
The Taurox got brought up. The Ogrins came up a couple of times as well.
Really? Ogrins?
Yeah, Ogrins was apparently quite an unpopular one.
I would have thought Ogrins would have been quite popular.
I never thought that.
Yeah, Mortarion came up a couple of times.
What?
I sympathise with that. Because when Mortarion came out, I just thought he looked kind of bad. Particularly the face. The face just didn't do it for me. He's grown on me. But I wouldn't have made him Miniature of the Year 2017 like he actually got.
No. I mean, the Magnus Demon model actually looked good. The Mortarion one looks... I don't...
Fine.
No, I won't even go that far. I think it's...
Oof.
I know it's meant to be ugly, but there's doing ugly right, like with the Great Unclean one, then you got doing ugly wrong with Mortarion.
Yeah, and then they got just super ugly and they designed Typhus.
Yeah.
So with Typhus, do you think the model's ugly, or because the pose is the thing that I don't like about him, but the model,
It's the pose.
the pose, okay.
It's the pose.
Yeah.
The Saturday Night Fever, Saturday Night Fever pose, I've heard people call it.
Ironically, some people hated the new Khan the Betrayer when he came out because of one thing or another. I was like, how? That model is beautiful and so elegantly
People
designed.
say he looked like... People said he looked like he was falling over, even though from the perspective of the model, he's like charging forward while cutting someone's head off. It makes sense.
Exactly like Khan the Bloody does in the 30k model.
Yeah. I think people are just used to that iconic, second edition Khan the Betrayer where he's got his axe raised in the air and going, "Arr!"
Mm-hmm.
So why do I get the feeling when Abaddon gets redone, there's going to be a riot of we like the old Abaddon now for a minute?
Oh, people are going to be complaining because the arms don't fall off.
Yeah, quite possibly. Quite possibly. How can we call it Felbin and the Armless? His arms don't fall off anymore.
That makes it even more fail.
But yeah. While we're talking about hideous old models, actually, with the Gloomspite, if they hadn't redone them, I'd have never bought the Rotgut Troggoths. Oh my god, those old blue trolls were the ugliest things
I agree.
ever.
Were those the ones from 4th edition?
I can't remember what they were.
Yes, they were.
When they were stone trolls,
Yep.
yeah.
Is that how old they were? 4th ed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At least some of them were, because they had a variety of them, but one of them was certainly that same starter set.
I like the 4th edition River Trolls. They look cool.
I don't remember them, but the 7th, 8th edition River Trolls, where they've got the current ones, they're called Fell Waters. They're very pretty in the grossest possible way. Like, they're ugly done right.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Actually, funny story about those. Back about, it was 3 years ago. I was playing what basically constitutes a Darkling Coven's army, and I had a 15-man Executioner Death Blob. This Executioner Death Blob, by the way, that one-shotted Archaon. And my opponent had heard about this Death Blob and brought 4 River Trolls deliberately to hard counter them by giving them -1 to hit so they couldn't do mortal wounds anymore, because this was back before unmodified 6s was a thing.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, your Executioner's not going to do anything now because they're at -1 to hit. They can't do the 2 mortal wounds on a 6 to hit. And then I killed 3 of them just with bad save rolls, and I was just dying. And the other 2 ran off because they're so fucking stupid. I was just like, yes,
I love it.
that is what you get when you try to hard counter my Death Blob. You die.
Alright, calm down.
I know. At the time, it was hilarious, and Executioners now are utterly terrible. Like, I ran them out like 6 months ago when AOS 2 came out, and I ran into Chaos Dwarves, and I just got utterly curb stomped. I was like, my giant 30-man Executioner block, because I proxied in some Sword Masses, lost 25 men on the first turn.
Ouch.
Ouch indeed. Chaos Dwarves at 1k points are not fun. Take it from me.
Is it time for questions?
Yes, I think it is.
Okay, first question. I was looking at the Imperial Guard weapon list and was wondering if any of these weapons have the ability to penetrate or negate Astartes' power armor. Longlas, Hellgun, Imperial Guard Infantry Flamer, Heavy Flamer, and Imperial Guard Infantry Chainsword.
Well, if we go by... I don't want to go by 8th edition, because that's obviously got different rules now in terms of how armor penetration works. If you go by old 40k rules, so 7th edition, the Hotshot Lasgun, aka the Hellgun, was AP3, so it could cut through power armor. The Long Las, I don't believe could, though I don't remember actually seeing it, because that was used as a sniper rifle, so that had rending, so on a 6 to wound it was AP2, but generally it couldn't.
But basically you can assume, if you shoot through the islands or something, then...
Oh yeah, every weapon has the ability to penetrate through that armor if you aim it correctly.
Yeah.
That's a fair point we should make. But in terms of what the game tells you, the Hellgun was the only one on that list that could do it consistently.
I think the Heavy Flamer has a chance as well, in fairness.
Yeah, back then it was AP4. Nowadays it's, I think, Rend -8, or sorry, AP -1. So it does affect their armor save, but it doesn't do a huge amount to it.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any fan-made Space Marine chapters that you'd like to become canon?
Wait, like ones that exist in Black Library novels?
No, as in homebrews.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah, fan-made ones.
Like the meme answer is the Angry Marines, but no.
The Angry Marines already are canon. They're called Marines Malevolent.
Point taken.
I would say come at me, but I just remembered that the Marines Malevolent have no fans.
Also that. Yeah, I generally, I speak to this as someone who is very bad at writing homebrews anyway. I just don't think that a good origin... It's very difficult to write a good origin story for them without having to then completely rework it when it hits Black Library anyway, so it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
So I'd say no. There aren't any that I'd want to see made canon, but that maybe is because I don't do homebrew that much, whereas you do homebrews every week.
Yeah.
Are there any from that series that you would say, that's...
I'm not going to take any sides, otherwise I might start arguments, so sorry, guys.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Moving on.
If the Alpha Legion had turned to Chaos, wink wink nudge nudge, what god would they turn to? Probably Tzeentch.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
If they were going to go to a god, it would be Tzeentch, but they're so manipulative that Chaos Undivided kind of suits them.
Yeah.
Like doing a Be'lakor and trying to play the gods off against one another. And failing. Because they're just pawns.
Fair enough. Who would be your dream guest for the podcast?
Were he still alive, I'd say Total Biscuit. But sadly, he's not. There isn't a particular name that I've got that jumps straight into my head. I don't know about you.
Duncan?
Yeah, Duncan would be cool. Difficult to set up, but would be cool.
Yeah. And let's not forget Peach as well. You know, got to have them as well. If you're going to have Duncan, have both of them.
If you're going to have one, have the other.
Exactly. Yeah, those two are probably the main ones, in fairness.
From GW, yeah. Is there anyone in the celebrity world, or in the real world, I guess, who is a sort of an avid hobbyist that would be worth getting, or if in a dream world? In a dream world,
Samoa Joe.
Yeah, I think I remember you mentioning him before.
I mean, he is a Warhammer fan, so there's always a chance one day.
To be honest, it would be kind of funny if some of these people who have the hobby and then have these who do their own thing in life, but they also watch us. It would just be funny if we just tweet at one of them one day and just get them on the show. That would just be like,
"Hi, everybody." Sorry. Okay. What do the various languages of 40k sound like? I'm mostly concerned about things like Low and High Gothic.
I did a video on that about 2 years ago.
There you go then, check that out.
Basically, Low Gothic is a mix of Americanized English and I think Japanese with a bit of something else thrown in for good measure. Let me just go back and check my script, which I think I got right. And I remember you left a really shrewd comment about people who can't understand each other's Low Gothic, talking about when Northerners meet Southerners, and I was very proud of that joke.
I'm trying to remember that now.
Low Gothic is a mix of High Gothic, which is seemingly the Pacific languages, so languages used by America, and then Low Gothic mixes it with Chinese and Japanese. The Eastern languages is what it's believed to be. But Low Gothic is so diverse. Like, someone from Terra's Low Gothic would be completely different from Martian Low Gothic, would be completely different from Necromundan Low Gothic, and so on.
And then you got
And that's where the Northern Southerner joke comes in.
And then you got Lingua Technis, which is literally just beep boop.
A language so bloody archaic that it's not archaic, but so exclusive that it is.
You need to have bionics to understand it.
And if you dare speak it without being a member of the Mechanicus, then you're probably dead.
Heresy.
Pretty much.
Next question. What's your favourite issue of the Regimental Standard?
Oof. I don't know. Is there anything that stick out in my head? Like, there was a few episodes where it was the Regimental Boss Poll quite recently. Like, those stick out in my memory. But I don't read them all. So there's probably some absolute gems that I just haven't read because I don't read them all.
I mean, for me, it has to be the How to Dress a Lasgun Wound one, where it basically covered up, an article about the Rangdan Xenocide. It's like, oh, hello, Solo Auxilia, you're going to have reinforcements from the 2nd and 11th Legions, also known as... It's like, you bastards.
Never mind.
Never mind. Do you think they should bring back some of the specialist Imperial regiments to plastic, such as the Death Corps?
I think the Death Corps are very safely in Forge World's back pocket and going nowhere. I say that, they did take the Trigon off Forge World, so maybe they'll take the Death Corps.
What about things like the Talon or the Mordian Iron Guard, Praetorian Guard, etc.?
Well, the reason that I don't think we're going to see that is because the Vostroyan First and Only... No. Vostroyan Firstborn. That's the Tanith First and Only, you idiot. The Vostroyan Firstborn went on to Made to Order a few weeks ago.
In Metal, wasn't it?
For a weekend. Back in Metal, yeah. So they actually are... They're still periodically putting them out on Made to Order, so I don't think they've got any plans to redo them. I'd kind of like to see them return in some way, because God, anything that's not Acadian, please.
We didn't.
Also, not
don't forget Katachan as well, because they got plastic, haven't they?
And yes, I know Katachans are a thing, but like, come on. Like, I find in terms of appearances, the Mordians are very interesting. I find the Valhallans very interesting. The Vostroyans are obviously ridiculously cool, and well, there's nothing left of the Tanith First and Only pretty much by this
Steel
point.
Legion.
Steel Legion, yeah. Death Corps as well, obviously. Death Corps are insanely popular in their own way.
Yep. Okay. Do you think we will see or need a reinforcement codex for the Adeptus Astartes that will include new Primaris Marines, a Primarch, new characters, and a rules boost?
I think we can all agree that reinforcements for Primaris are a given.
They'll all be lieutenants.
Exactly, yeah.
But then again, they've also just done the Index Astartes in White Dwarf for the Crimson Fists, so maybe that's how they'll do it, instead of a second codex.
Okay.
Though I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, actually. Maybe there'll come a day, and I don't know if this is going to get me a lot of flack, where they'll actually do Codex Space Marines and Codex Primaris. Will they ever split the two up?
Well, didn't the Dark Imperium Codex, Dark Imperium box have Codex Primaris Marines in it?
Well, it was the only place you could get Primaris Marines at the time.
I know, but still.
Everything in that box was a Primaris Marine.
The Death Guard would say otherwise.
I said it was the only place you could get a Primaris Marine. What did I get wrong?
You said everything in that box was Primaris Marines, didn't you?
Maybe I did. Oops. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if they do reinforce Primaris with like proper scouts, proper devastators, more vehicle options that aren't repulsors. They may end up actually pulling two apart into separate codices one day, but I don't know. I think
what was the name of that super heavy Primaris tank from Forge World? Atreus.
That thing.
I forgot that thing even existed for a while.
I vaguely remember the thing. I'm going to remind myself what it looks like. Atreus Super...
It basically looks like the spaceship from Aliens.
Is it called the Atreus? Astreus. Sorry, I got that wrong. Astreus.
Yeah, Treyu. It basically rides a horse and the horse dies if it gets sad.
Oh, yeah. The thing looks like it's got, like, treads on the side of its treads, so it can do
More
side
treading.
flips.
Yo, dog, I heard you like treads, so I put treads on your treads.
Exactly.
But, like, it's a grav tank with, like, side treads. And, like, I know the repulsor does the same sort of thing, but it's just like, what?
Question to me, what did you think of the Bumblebee movie? I've not seen it yet, so I can't really comment. What rules change to a single sub-faction would you like to see? I'd like White Scar's bike squads, count as troops.
Yeah, I think part of the thing is they've pulled away, in some ways, in particularly 8th edition, from having specializations for the sub-factions, in some ways. That they've given them their own chapter tactics, but it used to be, back in day, a captain on bike made your bikers troops. And they've sort of pulled away from that whole idea of making stuff troops, because Farsight no longer makes battlesuits troops, and I'm sad about that. But I think it would be cool to see a bit more specialization, because the Black Templars probably have it best, because they get their chapter tactics, then they get a bunch of extra named characters, and I think they still have the Crusader squads unique to them. Or actually, did Crusader squads get cut in 8th edition? I can't remember.
I can't remember. Not off the top of my head, at least.
I know they were in the previous codex, but I don't know if they're in the 8th edition codex. They might have been cut out as well. And I think that's part of the issue with the codex pulling so many chapters together, is that you can't service all of them. Like, the non-codex compliant chapters get unique units, unique abilities, all sorts of fun stuff, like the Deathwing, the Ravenwing, Thunderwolf Cavalry, love them or hate them, Death Company, Deep Striking Land Raiders, though they might not have Deep Striking Land Raiders anymore in Blood Angels, I don't remember. I think that they sort of pulled away from that sort of thing a bit, and they'd have to basically just pull units out of the codex, or armies out of the codex, in order to make it work like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't agree with the idea.
And speaking of changes, because you mentioned about how, battlesuits no longer count as troops under Farsight, let's all take a bit of time to remember that one point in time where Thousand Suns Terminators were immune to strength 4 or less weapons. Literally just flat out immune to them. That's their special rule.
2nd edition?
3rd. Like early 3rd edition.
Yeah, like 3rd, not 3.5, because 3.5 was a ginormous reboot because Chaos broke the game.
I wonder why Thousand Suns Terminators.
Yes, I completely wonder why Chaos broke the game.
Yeah, because it was Khorne Terminators had +1 strength, Slaanesh had +1 attack, Nurgle had +1 toughness, and Tzeentch was like, fuck it, you're immune to strength 4 or less weapons. Which basically made Imperial Guard useless against him. You can have just one squad of Terminators just butcher everything in sight.
Yeah, I feel like today, a rule like ignores strength X or less wouldn't actually be that obscene, because a lot of armies actually have a lot of guns that sort of work around this problem. Like, strength 4 would still be a bit silly, because then no bolter can hurt you. But aside from las guns and that sort of gun, there's not a lot down at strength 3, and Guard has just got so many
tanks.
Weapon options.
Just tanks. Boom.
Yeah, just tanks, heavy weapon teams, psychic powers. I feel like ignores strength X or below. It would be annoying, but then, to be fair, Wraith Knights and stuff, when they were toughness 8, had ignores strength 4 or below, and they managed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that old wound chart was silly. Like, hey, you're toughness 8. I'm going to shoot you in this weak spot with my bolt gun. Doesn't matter. I'm toughness 8. You can't actually hurt me. Screw you.
Yeah, but wasn't it also that needing 7 or above rule as well? So if you rolled a 6 and you rolled another 6 or something, you could.
I think that was for hit rolls, not wound rolls.
Oh, yes, you're right. Sorry, my mistake.
Because if you were ballistic skill like 8, you hit on 2s, and if you rolled a 1, you still hit on like a 5 anyway, because your ballistic skill was so damn high.
Mm.
Yeah. They definitely, and it talks about it, I talked about it in the last episode, in the article with Robin Cruddas in The New White Dwarf, he talks about how they wanted to streamline the game, and ballistic skill was one of the first stats to get changed, because it was just like, instead of, here's 7 minus a stat, no, here's just a roll.
Yeah.
This is just easier.
Okay. If Exterminatus nukes are radioactive, does the one who declared it have to worry about EMP or EMF bursts? I have no clue.
Can you repeat the question?
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't studied nukes. I haven't studied nuclear technology all that much. But I'm going to probably use Fallout as my best example here. I know that a radioactive blast or a nuke going off does carry an EMP wave with it.
Yeah.
Though whether that's built into the blast or that's a separate feature they added in because they wanted to take something else out with the nukes, I don't know. I'm not an expert. But to be fair, it's an Exterminatus, so... And you're also launching it from high flipping orbit. So I don't think it should affect your own ships that fire it, but if you're trying to get off the planet after planting it manually like a moron, yeah, you might have to worry about it. I don't know.
Okay, there's not too many more questions. I probably have 1 or 2. So, next question. Okay. After Fulgrim killed Ferrus, Manus was the first thing he said who killed Ferrus. No, the first thing he said was, "What have I done? Throne save me, what have I done? I killed him. He was my brother."
Direct quote.
More or less. Question from Michael. Do you think the Farsight Enclaves will learn how to warp travel?
Basically, that question is basically a sort of got a secondary question of, is someone going to bring them the slipstream module from the main empire? Because that's what the slipstream module is designed to do. It's not a warp travel device in the same way as, say, what the Imperial ships do, but that's their sort of equivalent. Is the AL-37, AL-30 slipstream module is their sort of like jump device thingamajigger. And I get the feeling the Enclaves will get one of those. As for whether they'll get warp travel, if they have psychers and don't go all xenocidal like the Fourth Sphere did, like, maybe, but I don't think we'll ever see it, is what I'll say.
Okay, and finally, what if the Eldari openly aided the Imperium during the Horus Heresy?
The way you said that, I felt like you just had a rant lined up.
No. I think it's a lot more difficult to really quantify an actual answer in this, considering that the Horus Heresy wasn't actually that long after, the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think the Eldari as a whole were really in a position to help any side in the Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Eldrad tried to, go, hey, Ferrus, you should try and, sort this out because, Chaos, oh, you told me to fuck off. Hey, Fulgrim, you should really help, against Chaos. Oh, no, you're already corrupted by Chaos. Hey, Vulcan, yeah, you actually listened.
Yes. That is broadly...
Now I'm going to go and kill a frog.
And then the Cabal got involved.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the frog. The Slan, that Eldrad ended up killing.
Ah, right, sorry. Missed that joke. Yeah, I think, you're right in that the Eldari were so utterly shafted. But then the Eldari were probably, trying to avoid the heresy and all the... they sort of knew something bad was going to happen. Because, the Drukhari tried to kill Angron as soon as he arrived on New Seria. So it's
not only that, they tried to kill him during the Shadow Crusade as well, because I think it was actually a Corsair fleet. Well, actually, it could have been Drukhari, because the weapons described were
Drukhari
splinter
can
weapons.
Be part of Corsair fleets. It's 6 to 1, half dozen the other.
Yeah, okay. But they ended up having like a direct quote saying that the Monkai God Prince must not become the Blood God's son.
Yeah.
So they obviously knew that Angron was going to become, Bloodthirster, essentially.
Yeah. They clearly knew something was up, and that they knew that if Chaos won the Heresy, it all went to hell. But I think you're right that as a race, they were never in any position to sort of stand against it at that stage. And to be fair, they never have been since. Like, even now, the Inari are running about doing their own shtick, but they couldn't fight a cross-galaxy war against Chaos. They'd just be too stretched thin. They can
Exactly.
help from place to place, but they can't do all of the stuff.
The thing about the Inari is that they're essentially the scalpel to the Imperium's hammer. Like, considering how close ties the Inari actually have to the Imperium, because of the whole, hey, we brought back, one of, your god's sons. You're welcome. And the fact that Guilliman has actually, given missions to Yvraine in the past as well.
Yeah, I get the feeling, though, that alliance, quote-unquote, is going to run into one particular sticking point. What happens if the Inari work out, or find out for some odd reason, that the final Crone Sword is, shall we say, in the vaults of Moravec? Or within the throne room of the Imperial Palace?
Good luck getting into the throne room of the Imperial Palace. It's like, oh, it's just custodians. Yeah, custodians and Warhound Titans and Reaver Titans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, what happens if Yvraine calls up Guilliman, for want of a better phrase, and says, excuse me, so our scrying and stuff has found that, that sword that's just lying in the corner of the Emperor's throne? It's been gathering dust. You might have seen it when you were in there chatting with your dad. So that's actually a Crone Sword? You may have heard of these things. They're super important to us, and we need them to bring our god back. Could we have that? I know it's been in your throne room for 10, 11,000 years, and it's probably super sacred at this point. And hell, maybe your custodians have taken it by now. I don't know, but we kind of need it, please. Also, if you don't, we're gonna probably break our alliance, and you'll be screwed. So please.
Well, the thing is, that'll never happen because we all know the final Crone Sword is in Farsight's possession. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, all right, references. But you know what I mean? Sort of, if the Inari and the Imperium don't agree on something, the Imperium needs to defend this world, the Inari are nope, we need to be somewhere else. The last Crone Sword shows up in an Imperial, holy place. Hell, it's Celestine's sword, I don't know. At what point are the Imperium and the Inari just going to butt heads? Because they're not going to get along forever.
No.
Totally.
Again, they're allies of convenience.
Absolutely.
And canonically, they are a romantic couple, according to Gav Thorpe.
Why did he ever say that?
Gav Thorpe brought it up. He did say.
I know he did. He had no idea what you were talking about.
Go back and watch the episode if you missed it.
It was episode 32, I believe. But yeah, that happened.
Sorry, you cut out there. Say that again.
Yeah. Episode 32, I believe, was the episode that we had Gav on. And
yes.
Yeah, sometimes that's how I remember almost every episode done, Bruce. I just count back guests. Right, who do we have on then?
Yes, we need to try and get some more guests on so we can have some more confirmation of certain things.
Yeah, we definitely need to, there's certainly people in Black Library we need to be speaking to, and I still want the Black Library conference call. Just sit back, grab a pint, and watch the madness.
Oh, that'd be some crazy stuff.
That would be amazing.
But yeah, that'll be the last of the questions. There's a few more that are more memey. Can someone have Snipes Battenberg, for example?
Oh, that sort of meme, right.
Or do the Chuckle Brothers worship Chigorak, for example? I mean, probably not, considering one of them's dead.
It's
a big hindrance.
Dear.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough. So if you have a question that you would like to ask, whether it's 40k or Sigmar or whatever else related, then do let us know in the comments with the word question, as you are wont to do. And since I don't know my Sigmar well enough, I might just shoot Doug an email and just like, could you just check this for me? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Because there's one thing that's been nagging me. Is Archaon a god now?
No, he's not. He's ascending to his own godhood.
Yeah, I didn't think he was. I knew he was like so powerful the gods couldn't beat him, but I didn't think he was actually a god. I just wanted to check that because I wasn't sure.
No, I wish. I think that would be a cool thing to do if he came out with his own book. Like, well, he has his own book, but I mean like it's updated if they're going to bring everything together kind of stuff.
Yeah, if they're going to redo... I said it earlier, just put Ever Chosen in Slaves to Darkness. Why do they have their own book? It makes no goddamn sense.
I agree.
And then pull Dark Oath and Marauders out, make them their own standalone faction, and boom, sorted. Lovely. Done. To be fair, though, it's going to be interesting, because 40k, as we said earlier, is coming to the end of its sort of release schedule. Like, almost everything has been 8th editioned by this point. There's only probably 5, not accounting for new factions, probably about 5 codices tops left to do, depending on what they do with Imperial Agents, I guess. And so at some point, either they're going to have to start re-updating, putting out campaign books out the wazoo. By the way, Vigilus Defiant is definitely getting a sequel in about 40-odd days, because they made a post on Warhammer Community saying it's been 30 days, so that is a thing. Did you actually see that little title card on Warhammer Community?
No, I didn't, no.
So, you know the sliding banner at the top of WHC's website?
Yeah.
Well, one of them for a bit, when it linked to the Vigilus page, and it was just the spear planted in the ground and said, it's been 30 days. So they're definitely actually going to run with this 80 days after Vigilus Defiant something's going to happen. I feel like they are actually running with that.
Ooh.
But
New
anyway,
Abaddon model confirmed.
It'd be nice if it were. We shall see. But what I was saying is 40k is going to run out of codices reasonably soon, because there's only so many factions they can put in, and Sigmar's going to have to take the reins for a bit, not the realm. So I'm sort of curious, like, what you are expecting we'll get, like, sort of this year or coming up, because like my sort of hedged bets has been we'll get Slanesh, we'll get Dark Oath. I think we're going to get Tyrion and Teclis' elves this year, or Malarians, one of the two. I think I'd like to see us get Gutbusters, and I think we should probably see something with Death, maybe the Flesh Eater Courts redo, and then maybe Scryer as well, but that's a lot for 1 year.
Yeah, you know, it is, but when you think about like how like the raw talent of their design team for like 40k codices, if you apply that same, not even the same pace, because that was breakneck, but I mean something like that towards AOS as well. Now that you can do narrative stuff for 40k, I don't know. I don't think you're asking too much.
Like for the writing team, no. It's the challenges. It's the modelling team, because
exactly
they've got a lot more work to do for every Sigmar book than they do for 40k. Because like for 40k, Genius of the Cults have had new models, Orcs got new models, Death Guard got new models, Space Marines got new models, and I think that might have actually... Oh, Custodians got new models, and I think that was it. Whereas every AOS book that comes along, pretty much, with the exception of possibly like Beasts of Chaos, who just got like the Endless Spells, always gets a new set of miniatures to go along with it, and that obviously takes more time to draft, draw, design, build, and then they can put the writing team to work. Because I think I remember a Phil Kelly interview where he said the writing happens after the design process happens.
Right.
If I remember that correctly, anyway. So it's a case of how fast can they get the models out. So I'm just not sure what you think we're going to get this year.
I definitely see... If our constraint is models, I could definitely see Dark Oath Slanesh. That's kind of a given, I think, at this point. As well as possibly Carriage and Overlords, because we do know there is a new warband for them coming out sometime for the Shadespire Underworlds thing, and that'd be a prime time if they already have a new, like a refresher, if you will. And that Battle Tome is the saddest book in all of Age of Sigmar, and
It's bad.
It just doesn't work even in its own. It'll vacuum. But I think that's probably a good bet if they're going to take, if the model has already come, it's a good time to jump in with some new rules, updated approach. What else? Probably more Stormcast towards the end. Well, I say towards the end of the year, but July is the year for Age of Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much when Stormcasts have always come out, I think.
not sure about when what are they called? The Vanguard and the Extremists came out. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't. But they tend to come out whenever the General's Handbook stuff because there's a lot of stuff going on there. I don't.
Challenge. Sorry, the biggest challenge for me is death. Because what the hell are they going to do with death? Because they put it. What are they going to do? Pull Soul Blight out, but then what do they give them for troops? Fell bats? That doesn't work. Dire wolves? That belongs to Deadwalkers.
Bring back Tomb Kings.
Cetra's dead. All right, get over it. It's a dead meme.
I don't know, because every time I think I figure out what they're going to do with these factions, they change it. So like if they were to say, for example, something like Beast of Chaos, right? They gave us 4 new models. There's 3 on the spells and the Herdstone. That's it. Mm-hmm. And they could do that to several armies. Like the amount of they haven't touched elves. All the elf stuff we have is all new. So there are 3 to 4 factions just sitting there. That if they just added 3 to 4 models and updated the lore, they'd be fully functional armies.
Same with the humans.
Exactly, yeah. So if they went that route, we could see a lot, because 4 to 6 models per faction would be easy to crank out, relative to, like, say, with what we're doing now with Gloomspite Gitz, where they have a ton of models, and there's already stuff that existed that still ports over. I don't know. For me personally, I want them, like kind of what you had said earlier, I want the people who've been waiting for 3 years to get something. So I'm happy with my Beast of Chaos release. It was only 4 models, but they rewrote the faction and gave it cool spells and a new way of interacting with rules and fit it into the context of the universe.
Yeah, so like, what is their context of the universe? Because like, whole Beastmen used to work was, they live in the forests around the Empire and Britannia. You don't go in there or you die.
Yeah, so they kind of represent chaos, but without a chaos god, just like completely, truly unaligned. And not just a chaos undivided army, but one that focuses on warping. So like the actual mutations and things like that. So they were new in the sense of there's nothing else that really represents as well the chaos undivided stuff there's ever chosen, but you'll never see that book taken. Just because of the way the rules work. And
they still sort of like just live in the wild places, and you go out into the woods, you die. Is that sort of still their MO, or do they sort of operate differently now?
They're much more nomadic rather than just having like tribes in the woods that kind of band together. The whole goal is to spread that warping power everywhere. So they'll erect like 30 herdstones as a terra path across a region. So it's much more, I think, on the offensive than they were in the old world in fantasy battles.
Yeah. They sound like a lot like a destruction army, just with the wrong tag on their battle tome.
Honestly, they kind of do. I'm not even going to shy away from that. That is 100% an accurate assessment. And the only disappointing thing is there's nothing really in their book that contrasts them to orcs, because it's like there's one sentence that's like, well, orcs enjoy the destruction, the madness of warfare, which is similar in 40k.
Yeah.
So there's much of a joyful kind of evil glee to it, whereas the Beast of Chaos, it's really for almost like a holy mission to see things warped and broken down and twisted. But on the table and in practice, they don't seem different.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm very honest about shortcomings, but I do enjoy where they fit as far as everything else they have in AOS for Chaos is either Everchosen, which is a book that doesn't work, and then Chaos God specific.
Yeah.
And then they're a great contrast. Even with the Dark Oath that we've seen, they're very human, and particularly they're not warp touched human. Like they're very almost pure in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think they'll pose a good contrast to that.
Agreed. And the one thing that actually, this is something that 40k's done as well, is they've really stripped I don't know if you probably know this better than I do. It feels like the Chaos Gods have really been stripped of a lot of their, for want of a better word, personality. Like, a lot of like the stuff with Khorne. I know obviously the Bloodbound are fascinating in terms of like the fact that they turn to cannibalism to stay alive, and that's how they got corrupted, and it's either you join or you die, and that sort of thing with the Bloodbound. But Khorne really feels to me like always angry all the time. That's all he is now. At least in Sigmar. In 40k, Khorne's kind of gone the same way. I don't know if you get the same vibe as I do, because I don't know how long you've been in the hobby and whether you see what I see.
Yeah, I would agree. I think part of me kind of wonders if they're setting it up for Slaanesh. So all the Chaos Gods we have now, so Tzeentch, Khorne, and Nurgle are the 3 that exist currently with books in AOS we have really good information on. They all seem very one-dimensional. And there is something lost on that, I do think. But I'd be curious because, so Slaanesh, I'm not sure if this applies in 40k as well, but when someone is so obsessed with one thing, Slaanesh also gets buffed, or the pursuit of one thing. So I'm curious if they wrote it that way on purpose so that when Slaanesh rises, all 3 of the Chaos Gods have a reason to fear.
Yeah, possibly. Though actually, with Wrath and Rapture, I love the story in there. Have you read it?
I have not. I have a friend who's given me a booklet, but we just haven't met up yet.
Fair enough. So, TLDR, basically, in Rapturess, steals something of great value to Khorne. Like, I think it's like an ancient weapon that's imbued with Khornate power. And it was just left lying around because the last champion who had it died.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rapturess is like, this is going to annoy Khorne so much, I'm just going to steal this axe and run with it. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the entire plot of Wrath and Rapture. Is Khorne just gets increasingly more and more mad at this Rapturess running around with this axe, to the point that he sets Karanak on her.
I love it.
I've got it in my Discord server. Someone's got the whole set of quotes. I won't spoil it here, but it's just hilarious. It's like, yeah, this is the great game, but it's not the great game you remember.
Super
it's
petty.
Not quite about. Yeah, the Chaos Gods are just being made into absolute little bitches for each other, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, one thing about kind of like the scope of AOS that is a little bit different is like it's very much based on like Norse and Greek mythology type things, where like we know the quote unquote drama of the gods. We know that Zeus had relations with this god and have a son, but the actual stories that come from that are much more focused on the human elements. Hercules coming down and fighting people. You know what I mean? So you say that Khorne is one-dimensional, and he is, and he's described that way. But you also said the Khorne Bloodbound are awesome, which is exactly, I think, the point. The characters that we interact with have a ton of flavor, but the gods themselves can be... They're lofty. We're not supposed to understand them.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, though, you have Morathi.
Yeah, who's in the middle.
Morathi is sort of like a demigod, for want of a better word. And I'll be honest, she's horrible.
Yep.
With what she did to Volturnos in the Ideneth book, where she set him up to fight the Mask in a false meeting, F you, Morathi, that was horrible. But her character is so much deeper than anyone else. And her discussion, like, I always remember A Rescued Soul, the Malign Portent short, A Rescued Soul.
Absolutely, that's a great one. That
argument, where it hints that Malerion has basically set Sigmar up because Sigmar's a massive dolt, which is embodied by the hell I can't meme.
Yep.
And Morathi is just, and the two of them are just constantly arguing. It's like, wait, did this soul just hear us? Shit, crap, send it back, I don't want anything to do with it.
Shut it down.
Put it back into eternal hell in Slaanesh. I don't care. It heard us arguing, and it's just like, she's so petty, and she's so evil, and she's running the most dangerous fucking game of these devotee murderesses who could probably kill her in 10 minutes flat, but they can't kill her because she's got Kane's heart and is making them think Kane's alive, but Kane's dead, and it's just, Morathi, I hate you and I love you. It's so horrible.
I love it.
Indeed.
Yeah. Like all those stories, like the most fascinating characters are the ones that are kind of like Morathi and that kind of in between. Like that's why Archaon's so cool. I mean, his stories in the Rome Gate Wars, which unfortunately is when AOS came out and it wasn't very well developed. Like when he has dialogue with other people in short stories that have come out in kind of the peripheral of that, he's a fascinating character. Like all of them are. I'm not sure how much of that is like on purpose, like I was saying, like having the gods be one-dimensional, having the people you interact with be more deep. So I'm not sure how much of that is intentional, but that's how it comes across.
Yeah, and Sigmar is another one. Nagash comes across as this super cold, calculating idiot at times. And Sigmar is this noble-intentioned idiot.
Yes.
Who rushed his army out because it wasn't ready. It wasn't blatantly ready, and he rushed it out anyway. Grimnir. Oh, right, we're done here, Sigmar. Give me something to fight. Okay, go fight Valkatrix because you're bored. All right, dead.
Yep.
And was it Grimnir? Yeah. And the other one, what's his name?
Grugni.
What's the other dwarven? Grugni, thank you. Oh, I'm just going to abandon Shaman now and go work for Sigmar.
Yep.
Have fun, everyone. You're on your own now. Okay, thanks, Dad.
Deadbeat dad level deity.
Yeah. Teclis. Teclis is a mahoosive idiot.
Yep.
Like, what was he doing? Sorry, I could go on for so long about how every god in this game is a complete moron.
Well,
but then everyone below them is just fascinating.
Yeah.
You're right. And also, Greek myth, you want to talk Greek myth? Daughters of Cain. Medusae and Harpies.
Yep.
Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, someone told me about this. There's an ancient, all-female, Greek society, and I always forget their names, who worshipped Aphrodite and were basically an all-female pseudo-warrior drunk cult type.
Amazons?
Not Amazons, no. What was their name? I'm going to go and Google it.
Go for it.
Aphrodite, women's cult, ancient Greece. It's going to bother me until I remember it. Was it Aphrodite? Was it No, it was Dionysus' cult, not Aphrodite. What am I talking about? It was Dionysus. I can't spell Dionysus, it's fine. Come on, who was it?
It was Batman.
If you are interested in, or your listeners are interested in AOS, let's talk about the gods. Like the best, I think, learning about the gods is that Mind Point short story with Marathi and Malarian, and also Soul Wars, because Nagash humanizes Sigmar as they have a discussion about how, I don't know, just how above everyone else the gods are and how everyone else's play things to them. It's a fascinating discussions in there. Josh Reynolds is an incredible writer.
Yeah, we had him on the show a while ago, and he's fascinating to talk to as well. Where is it?
Funny as well.
Where is this bloody thing? Sorry. I should probably end the episode, but this is bothering me so much now I need to go and find it.
I'm breaking up a little bit there.
Sorry. No, I can't find it. I'll go Google it when I'm off the air. Right, I think looking at the clock, we should probably call it time. Sorry about some of the connection issues that we've had. I hope it hasn't affected you guys too much in terms of the listeners, but I know it's been a bit of an annoyance, particularly on Rem's end today.
I'm just going to blame Dr. White.
When in doubt, blame White. Fine, got it. So yeah, that has been episode 62 of Adeptus Podcastus. We do hope you have enjoyed it, and if you are new to Sigmar and you didn't like Sigmar, I hope we've changed your mind. If not, please go learn something, because I'm sorry, there's just too much good stuff there. It's just time. It's time to learn and not just pie it off. Anyway, so if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments with the word question, as always, and I don't think we need to announce the guests for next time. They're not Black Library, so that will be fine. So, for now, thank you very much for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And Doug from 2+Tough.
Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.